We are from the Kaspersky lab, from the ICS CERT team, and today we'll be talking about the vulnerabilities of smart toys and how they can impact a child and everything which is around this smart toy. Let's put it this way. I think that some QR codes are coming. Yeah, this is for the questions. Good. This is the QR code. So if you have questions, please send them there, and we'll have a Q&A session following our presentation.
Да, спасибо. Собственно, начинаем немножко.
Okay.
Меня зовут Nikolay Frolov.
My name is Nikolay Frolov. I'm a researcher in information security from Kaspersky ICS CERT. I've spent about 10 years in reverse engineering, hardware, ICS, automotive, IoT, industrial, IoT, and so on. So this is a wide range. I am also a MFA instructor. Here is Alexander. He's our leading expert in Kaspersky ICS CERT. He has more than 10 years of reverse engineering experience, both hardware and software, and he's also a senior instructor at MFA and the Bauman University. Okay. What is it, what we have in front of us? This is a typical IoT. This is a kid's toy robot based on Android. It has a video camera, it has a mic, and it is designed to teach kids. So it has a broad range of functions. So they have a parent application so that you can see how your child is progressing in languages, in mathematics, and some fun activities. And I think that you have a question. Okay, hardware, ICS, automotive, and here is a toy. How come? Well, one of our colleagues asked us to have a look at what his child is playing with. And we kindly agreed. We had a break between our projects, so we had time to have a look at this toy. And you know, this was really interesting because the vendor and their website says something like that they have a kid-safe certificate, and that every byte of the user information is protected. Okay. This was a challenge for us. Well, how come? How can you protect every byte? Let's have a look. Let's have a look at the inside. And we started our research. We determined the three areas. Well, we started with two: the robot and the parent mobile application. But we also added the cloud server, or the manufacturer. We also tested it a little bit.
Да. Ну, собственно, я начну.
Okay, I'll start with the robot. Its design and what we have seen. Okay, let's dive into this beautiful and wonderful world where every byte of user data is protected, as promised by the vendor. Okay, here is where we started. So we don't update the robot following the first boot, and we just sniff the traffic between the robot and the cloud. What did we see? It's HTTP that we saw. Well, this is not a good picture, is it? Well, following the update of the firmware, they got HTTPS. But still, we got some useful information, and we'll share it with you later. Okay, we decided to dig deeper. because hardware is our primary concern. So we decided to see what do we have inside. So we have two PCB boards, and this is a mask with a description of every test point and so on. It's so detailed, so much information there. Well, I've never seen anything like that before. Okay, the core chip is MediaTek IT MT8167. We googled it and we saw that it has critical vulnerabilities. We tried this, we tried to replay this. Well, it didn't work with the first trial, but still we were inspired to see that it is vulnerable. So we decided to dig deeper. So this is the second board, the lower board. As you can see the UR and JTAG, but it's not that nice since, well, for this chip, you can see here, this is the bottom board. So you needed all this to control the device because it's on wheels, and we had to see how it is controlled. But you cannot get to Android here. But there is another interesting thing here, the micro USB, and the mask, it is saying Android. Well, that's like a hint. That's where we should be looking. So we used an NTP device. Okay, no ADB, no problem. We decided to read the firmware to see what we have there. So we read the firmware. Okay, we went to the need files, the user configuration. Okay, system USB config MTP ADB. Okay, we have the ADB, so we should be looking for it. Okay, here are two questions. Number one, how we can find ADB, and number two, why can't we see it? Okay, let's start with the second one. Why we can't see it? When the launcher of the device starts running, it downloads the settings. So persist system USB config, so MTP, and the device is as a media transfer protocol device. Okay, but we saw ADB, didn't we? So we decided to look at the loading stage. And here is what we saw. We can see ADB for 5 seconds until the launcher sets its settings. Well, this is not enough, but we needed to have a hold here. So we need this shell, but this shell had a root which would simplify our work, but 5 seconds isn't enough anyway. So we tried to see what we can find, because we already have the firmware. Okay, we went to the launcher, and here is what we see in the launcher. I'm not sure whether you can make it out. Well, this is the enable ADB field. If this is 1 or yes, then it means that ADB is on. And it means that we can persist it. So we tried looking for the location of this. It was all in the file called something properties, and we had to find it in the file system. 5 seconds were enough to find this, to see what this file is like. It has some settings. It has some base URLs for the backend. We'd like to thank the vendor, and the enable ADB field we changed to get the root. So this is the toy. Okay, and then we proceed, dealing with the cloud server. We started analyzing the backend, what we could find
был HTTP,
when we had HTTP.
как выглядело с HTTP.
What it looks like with HTTPS. And security issue number 1 here.
Что пароль
The password
6 символов,
is just 6 symbols. And the serial number, so the username is the serial number of the robot on the body. Well,
где 6
you know,
не составляет.
it's not a big deal to find these security cookies
Полезли.
and to go through the 6 symbols. Okay, we went further. The applications, security issue number 2. Here you can see this complex transformation to generate the password.
Было
So you had to add 273, multiply it by 2 from the serial number, and this way you can get the password.
вот. Ну, как бы
Well,
слабые креды.
weak credentials. Let's proceed.
Проблема в безопасности номер 3.
Security issue number 3.
Подставить вместо
When we tried to use a random set of symbols instead of the password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
куки мы снова
security cookies were given to us again. We had the token. We said, cool, good job.
это все к тому, что
And
вначале
as you remember,
get safe,
we talked about the certificate Kids Safe, yeah? It says that there are some procedures for handling safety issues and complaints, but we haven't seen the whole picture, I'm afraid. And then Alexander will give us some more details about it and some other security issues identified. Alexander, thank you, Nikolay. Well, let's remember why we started dealing with the internals of the robot. So we wanted the root, we wanted to understand how difficult it would be for an attacker to get access to this toy. Well, the physical vector would be a strange thing. No one will break the toy, no one will try to take it away from the child. So the goal of the threat and a bad actor is to understand how the robot interacts with the backends, to see how authorization goes, to find some other endpoints, and so on. Despite the fact that we can find out the IP, the domain names, anyway, any access you might need will be blocked by the authorization and by the token, and unless we understand the endpoints, we will not do anything. But this is not how it worked here. In this case, we find out the endpoint, we tried to interact with it with our hands, and it returned an error to us, and this error had a lot of debugging information. Why so? Because the developers used the Django framework for their backend, and they didn't care about switching off the debug at the backend level. So when the server was in the debug mode, we saw various features of the server, the frameworks it is using, and to find various endpoints, and including the full description of all the API. Neither the robot nor the parent application knows it. Only the server could share this information. The most important thing to share is that to deal with it, the wrongdoer doesn't have to get inside the robot, because the authorization goes through the login. The login is short and it can be easily found in the internet. Okay, the bad actor can get information on the robot. They know some web APIs. What can they do? Let's see what a wrongdoer can do passively. Passively, I mean, neither the parent nor the child will not know anything about it. Okay, the first thing, the web API granting access to information on the user, in this case, the child. So this is revealed if we put here our token and if you go through the right level. Okay, what kind of information can you receive? Okay,
Имя, фамилия.
the name, the surname, it was our user, it was a boy, Nikolay, 29. Well, old enough, isn't he? But he's not only Nikolay 29, but we can see where this app was registered. So we see that it has a certificate. It is not going to share anything with anyone. And this is used by kids and the wrongdoers knowing the login can obtain this information. This is not nice, is it?
Узнать.
Okay, what else can they find out? Okay, they can find out who the parents are of this kid. This is revealed through another endpoint. So who the parents are, the email, the phone number. And this is completely different, a different story. Well, the previous example was a small ascent, but here this information can let the attackers attack the user. And here we can see some extra fields like the password and username. We will use them in the future. Remember that you can easily obtain them by knowing the login, by knowing the ID of the robot. Okay, so we have a system. It says that they have certificates, that they take care of security, but here they say that there are some procedures related to safety. Well, this doesn't look like procedures related to safety, does it? When any user knowing the login can get access to information on the owner, and the owner will not be notified. So this is passive. No one will know anything. Okay, what can you do actively with this toy?
О роботе, понятно.
Well, talking about robots. This is not a mobile phone. You cannot steal confidential data about your bank. You cannot spoof your email. You cannot have a look at the contacts. But the contacts are already leaked. Okay, what else can you do to this robot? And there is an uneasy thing. What is a robot as a toy? So with this robot, the kids play various games, and then parents can call this robot anytime if it has a camera and a microphone. So what shall we do to say that the robot is compromised? You should have a look at the backend of dealing with the connection with this camera. Okay, let's have a look.
Анализировать, как работает,
So how this video call works.
чтобы пообщаться.
So to talk, the developers use a third-party solution called Agora. There, they're registered, they have their token, and when the parent wants to talk to the kid by calling, this token should be obtained somehow. And to do this, the parent should fill in two fields. The first one is the channel name, and the second one is the user identifier. Well, it's logical, but what is behind these fields? Well, behind these fields, as a matter of fact, we have a statistical number, which is 20 for any robot. So you don't need to find it, but well, it's easy. It can be easily found. All the fields, all the endpoints can be obtained if you have just login. Okay, what is the channel name? The channel name is the same login which gave us all the other data, the ID of the robot. So if you know the robot ID, you can get tokens, you can get information on the APIs and get the Agora token. But this is not enough. So we get the token, but the robot doesn't know that someone is calling him. So we need the next step. So the attacker should ask the robot to call the number. So this is done through the app. We'll have a look at to see whether it's good or not so good. And in real life, Agora, well,
Токен, по которому в нее дальше и заходит.
thinks that the two users will use the token to connect. Okay, how will the user ask the robot to get into this room? For this, you need to fill in three fields. The first one is the Agora token. The next one is the token we already have. And then the Agora app ID. So this is the field we can obtain from the features. It's one and the same. So when we get access to the robot, we know the field for everyone. And the third one is the channel name. And this is the same serial number. The serial number is needed to obtain the token. So we see that we don't have so many fields to go through. So we can push this token to the robot. And to make the call, we need two fields, the username and the parent ID. So the username, we understand what it is. And parent ID. So what do we need to know about the parents? So this is the field which is revealed to the endpoint. So we know the login only, and this way we can ask any robot to call us. And so we take the Agora CRC. We have the Android client, and so we called the robot. We were not parents, by the way, so we got the proof of concept, meaning that any user, so in this system for the kids with a certificate, so should have something protected. But here, any user can call. This is not just a call. This will be shown as parent calling, which is not really the case. And now this is getting scary, isn't it? So we have shown that it's not very nice in terms of security for the robot, not very good for the cloud. Okay, and we need to have a look at the user app. Okay, why does the user need it? It's the parent. Well, the app is quite straightforward. It gives access to pairing, so you can pair a robot and the app, and then this robot will not be paired to anything else. So you cannot disconnect the robot from the app. Only the parent app can disconnect the robot. Then through this app we have name, surname, gender. You can also install games, and you can also make video calls. And based on all this, so you can say, can you hijack the session of this? Because all data goes from the cloud. Okay, how do we do the authentication? How does the user go there? So it is registered with the research server and leaves an email or the phone number as a contact to obtain the OTP. We remember that both email and phone can be obtained from one endpoint, knowing only the login. So this information is not secret. So you don't need to brute force it. Well, OTP here is fine. You can verify it, and there you receive an SMS or you receive an email. And then we could say to you how we can crack this, how you can spoof it, and ask the user to send the stuff. But you don't need it here, because OTP is only 6 weak. It's only 6 symbols. No protections from brute force. So we brute forced our own account within 5 minutes. So we are working within our registration scope. Well, 5 minutes, and the wrongdoer can get access to any user and their app. And what happens next? Well, there you can detach the robot from a parent account. So from home, this is a remote attack. The wrongdoer can attack the app anywhere in the world and detach the robot. After that, only one thing has to be done. This is to pair the robot with his app. So this is a complete hijack. What do we need for this? It was good in terms of security until a point. When we have two independent devices, we need a third arbiter. So how do we do pairing? We have the robot, and the robot at the time of pairing shows these symbols, and these symbols are OTP. Okay, so you should put it in your parent app, and then you'll see that, okay, we want to connect this robot to this app. We want to pair them, and it looks fine. But it turns out that to get these 6 symbols, you can use the same endpoint which reveals the phone number, the email, and the parent ID for the call. There is another field there called password. Okay, they have these 6 OTP symbols. You put them in and you gain control over the session. We can use to pair it with any robot. So this is a remote vector. This way, a wrongdoer anywhere can disconnect and unpair any robot and pair the robot to his Apple. And you can only unpair it again by contacting customer support. So this means that parent's software is also compromised. Okay, so we have shown that all the 3 infrastructure elements for this toy have been compromised. And in this case, it wasn't difficult to do. Okay, let's have a look at another thing. All the things we have shared with you are about the consequences related to the user. Okay, the information about the user is revealed. You can find out where the user lives. You can call. You can find out things about the kids. Are there any consequences for the business apart from reputation? And this is a bonus case. It is, the most juicy part. Let's have a look how they update the robot, and you will see why this is important. In front of you, you see an image for the robot upgrade, which comes to you through the HTTPS. What is missing here? We don't see any digital signature for this. So if an attacker changes the files going to the robot, then nothing will stop an attacker, and these files will be received as legitimate. Well, you can say that, okay, it's HTTPS, and this is a NAP, and then you can see the LPE and so on. So this is not nice. You cannot do anything out of the ordinary. But we don't see a signature. But we see interesting files like this one. This is the contents of one file. Okay, you can see a command execution, the console execution, which is implemented as a root. So we can see they just copy the files, and the files, console command, root name. Okay, this is a good solution, not very good for security. Okay, it would be fine because it's HTTPS. Well, talking about HTTP, you can hijack things. So you should be looking for session hijacking and so on. And this is not a remote vector, but we've been talking about remote vectors so far. Okay. The developers helped us here. One of the endpoints, okay, they here give all the information about the deploy server with all the credentials, so you can go there and you can change all the parameters. So knowing the login only, the intruder can also go to the deployment server, can swap the files, which will be rolled out throughout all the robots, and then he can turn, everything into stone. The deployment server, the products, and so on. This is bad for the user and for the business.
We've learned about all of it as early as last year, after which we got in touch with the vendors of these robots, and as a result, we got this time list of interactions. By now, we've verified all their fixes. And so all this nightmare that I just shared with you is no longer relevant. Why nightmare? Because everything that we were sharing right now, I think, evoked some thoughts with you that it's not too serious. I've seen something like that before. Well, it's clear that everything that we shared is obvious and trivial for information security professionals. But to note that it's about production, and production is what people are using. And it's also important, it's not your toaster or your coffee machine. It's about devices that can be used by our children. And if you if you can let go people for some errors with, let's say, your tea machine, a coffee machine, but it's not allowed for them to tolerate. It's not allowed to be tolerated with something that your kids are using. And when kids are users, special attention should be given to security. So the information is on the website. You can come to us with any questions, and we'll make sure that you get answers. And perhaps we'll answer the questions that have arrived.
Сейчас мы переходим, видимо, к секции вопросов.
Now we are switching to the Q&A session.
Так, вопрос номер 1.
Question 1. Can smart toy hacks be used for the broadcasting of targeted advertising for kids? Well, yes, you get full access. And a kid, when they're playing these things, they don't understand what's happening, unfortunately. For them, it's a game. And if some targeted advertising is going to be spoofed, then even the parents may not learn about that. It's not a smart teapot. It's something more serious. It's about your kids. Thank you for your presentation. Do you always succeed connecting a device over USB, or were there more sophisticated ways of physical connections? Let me answer. Well, perhaps not always. Not always the USB interface is present, but you always have a soldering iron, you have a multimeter, you have an oscilloscope. So it's not about robots. It's a general question, I think. So, but if it's about the robot specifically, USB is here. But it's not always that we investigate robots. The first case, and if you consider the general aspect of this question, USB is a classic interface. But in principle, you take the circuit board, you build a functional scheme. And then you walk through all the interfaces and see what logical interfaces are there, and you try to interact with them. So the simpler the device, the more there is probability that they offer you USB. The simpler, the less information that is going to be easy. So what happened to the vendor after your research? So, Peter, thank you for your question. Actually, we have been... We were looking for the right approach to the vendor, and I think we raised their security level, and on the whole, they're doing fine, and I think they're okay. So they keep working, they keep releasing new toys, but they're a bit safer now. Hello? Can one initiate a call as if to a parent and turn the toy into a tapping device? Well, here you can, so the functionality runs from the parent to the kid. So perhaps you can only do the tapping on the robot side. But on the robot side, yes, as we showed, one could upload some arbitrary application, and of course its functionality was there to access the microphone.
Ну и крайний вопрос. Каким образом злоумышленник может узнать
how the wrongdoer can know the EMS server that's being used? So it's on the in the MeetMe if it's about HTTP, or it goes inside if you can't look into anything in HTTP. So you have to patch the system inside, just as we did. Get the root, replace the certs, and look inside. But it's about the classic approach, isn't it? So I think we've run out of questions.
У меня достаточно короткий вопрос.
My question is going to be quite short. Thank you for your presentation. Why desoldering the USB interface and not GTAG? Well, GTAG wasn't there. There wasn't a slide. Oh yeah, I was explaining that there are two boards. The top one is the main one, Android-based, and the lower one is to control all the wheels and the rest. And GTAG was on the lower circuit board and was going to the chip that was responsible for controlling all this periphery. Thank you. Thank you. Another question. Colleagues, thank you for your presentation. It's really cool. My question is not about hacking, but about the last part. The vendor. As I understood, you didn't name the vendor. I did. Well, actually, we are allowed to mention. The vendor is called Myco. It's an Indian company. So my question is, if they patched everything over 6 months, did they register their ID, or did you? Not yet. We had some agreements with them, but as of the end of May, we were planning that we would register, get everything registered by the end of May, and I think it's going to happen. The CVs are on the device side, and it's not so much about on the device side. It's weakness credentials, perhaps. Just one function, because on the back end, the CVs are not registered now. So formally, only weak credentials. So at least we had an agreement with them as of the end of May. So the vendor has grown up considerably to be mature enough to be prepared to register that. Yes, thank you.
Здравствуйте, спасибо за доклад.
Thank you for your presentation. It was exciting. The question is more about further thought. I don't know whether you tested. You highlighted that there was a capability of making a remote call to the toy as if on behalf of a parent. But you also said that there's a control interface. Could one send some vulnerability so that you're making a call to the device to control it during the call or separately? Because this way one could, explore the home of the potential. Of course, we've looked through all the drivers of the wheel. There was a little bench. We ran it on the table. It can only be implemented if we spoof the updating. If we control the update, yes, we can replace the files. But talking about any other vectors, we didn't need any real vulnerabilities to get to the robot. Well, technically, if they're found, they can be exploited, but we can do it even without them. We weren't looking that deep because we didn't need to. Thank you. Hello, thank you for your presentation. My question is, when investigating this device, did you ever get an idea that at least this is implemented in a secure way? Well, I don't think we have. Okay, got it. Thank you. Hello, thank you for the presentation. You've identified these vulnerabilities. Have you experienced it or seen a case where these vulnerabilities were really exploited? Some kid would suffer, or something would happen that the company should respond to? Well, perhaps not. Perhaps not. Because we were doing our research just as a security analysis. We weren't even looking at whether anything has been exploited. As the vendor told us, on the whole, they believed that everything is cool on their side, that no leaks were happening, no unwanted information was available in the public field. So perhaps this is the only reason why I can say no, but we never detected them. Thank you. Hello, thank you for your presentation. Have you ever researched the Alice speaker this way? We're in the process. Are you going to share it in the future? Yes, of course, as soon as we get the information. Thank you.
Здравствуйте, спасибо за доклад.
Thank you for your presentation. Recalling the first slides, there were a nice label there, kids safety and so on and so forth. Did the company have any certification risks when they ran the certification, or maybe they didn't run any certificate? It's a difficult question. We're not aware.
Но такой информацию мы не располагаем.
We don't have any information like that. Because they showcase this information on their website. It means that's it. And we never got any other information. Another question at the end of the room.
Вот чисто гипотетически.
Just hypothetically speaking, this toy is an Android device. Would Kaspersky software be able to be installed there?
Что вы имеете в виду?
What do you mean?
Android.
Well, there's Kaspersky for Android, yeah, and they have Android you can install. Will it run in a fledged way? Well, they run full-fledged Android, so it's an operating system. They just have their own launcher with a nice picture and with the toys in this launcher, and that's it. But as soon as we've rooted, there's usual no-frill Android, and you can do anything. It's not customized in any way. Nothing has been done to it to prevent running any application.
Наверное, последний.
Well, perhaps the last question, I think.
Да, еще.
One more question. Now that you've arisen the subject of IoT device security, is there any international standard to get IoT devices certified, or some list of checks that you need to run to understand that IoT device is secure and safe? So you mentioned the vulnerabilities, but maybe such checklists could be available for vendors to test their products. Well, perhaps I can answer. I think there are standards such as security development life cycle. There's this concept of cyber immunity. So you need to use these approaches when designing the robot as such and when designing the back end. So this is the way I would look at it. But no specialized things for IoT? No. Well, I think on the whole, it's more or less the same as anywhere else. Well, look, we're more about breaking than fixing. So it's very difficult to say, is there anything specialized? But the advice is the same for everyone. You need to think about security in principle, and you need to think about the security after it's in production. So you need to think about security at the design phase, and then once you've finished, you need to invite pen testers, and that doesn't need to be done to just tick the boxes. It needs to be done in a serious way. Can I add? Everything, anything that is done to just to tick the boxes is not serious. Well, I have more of an answer than a question. There was a question about the certification or recommendations for IoT device vendors. There's a special framework. It's called Security Maturity Model that was released by the International Association of Industrial IoT Devices. And so this model helps building a special security profile for every vendor, which specifies the number of security measures for different vendors and offers a model for certification of such devices. for the compliance to this profile. Our guys took part in the development of this framework. And in particular, we, as the developers of this framework, also run such certification of vendors. And this vendor, Mika, has actually come to us already with a request to help them in the certification of the next models of their devices.
Наверное, это все.
Okay, I think that's a nice wrap-up to the presentation. Thank you for the question. Thank you. Okay, the T-shirt. Can I offer it to the lady for the question of how to make everything safe and secure? Please come to us for the T-shirt.